Okay, let's talk about a little bit about reflexes. So this chapter is going to be covered a little bit in your lab, so I'm going to cover a little bit more of it. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Just read that. Okay, so automatic reflexes or autonomic reflexes. We talk about. Okay, so the reflexes. Okay, break down in monosynaptic and polysynaptic reflexes. Okay, monosynaptic, one synapse. Okay, polysynaptic, more than one synapse, usually two. And these are going to be a little bit slower reflexes. Okay, and I'll explain how this actually works. But basically, because it has one extra synapse, one extra interneuron between the sensory neuron and the effector neuron, or efferent neuron, that's going to take a little bit more time. Okay, so, okay. All right, so autonomic reflexes will take even longer because there's always two outgoing neurons, right? So there's always two. There's always a ganglion. There's always an autonomic ganglion. So one interneuron, first effector, so pre-ganglionic neuron, and then post-ganglionic neuron, and then response. Okay. All right. So okay. So let's talk about what all these things actually are. Okay. First of all, okay, you have sensory receptors, known as proprioceptors. Okay. These proprioceptors give you a sense of where your body actually is. Okay. Okay. The somatic motor neurons actually carry the output signal. Okay. They're also known as the alpha motor neurons. The alpha motor neurons are actually the ones that make you move. Okay. The effectors, okay, are the skeletal muscle fibers, also known as extrafusal muscle fibers. Okay, so let's talk about what they are. All right, first of all, the Golgi tendon organs. So you have muscle and then you have tendon. Tendon doesn't actually respond to stretch. It responds to something called load. Okay. So it sends the sensory information to CNS. So these are Golgi tendon organs. Okay. The Golgi tendon organs, I'm going to skip this. Okay. Hold on, let me see. Okay. The Golgi tendon organs measure load. Okay, and I don't know why they don't explain it in this version of the PowerPoint, but the old versions they do. But I'm going to explain it in the whole guy's responsible for it. It's in your textbook. Okay, the Golgi tendon organs measure load, and what it actually does is it actually prevents you from hurting yourself. Okay, when you have too much weight, when you're lifting too much weight, the Golgi tendon organs, when they fire, okay, so actually they cause the release of the muscle. So you drop the load instead of hurt yourself. Okay, so if you're trying to pick up something really heavy, and you can't, or so if someone puts something really heavy on you, you can't hold it. It's too heavy for you. You automatically let go, and that's the Golgi tendon organ working. Okay. All right. So the rest of it, okay, the muscle spindle. Okay. So the muscle spindle, let's go through the pictures here. Okay. So here's the actual muscle. The actual muscle fibers are controlled by um, alpha motor neurons. Okay. Uh, this right here is the Golgi tendon organ. Okay. Inside the muscle, you have the stretch receptors, okay, that are known as intrafusal fibers. Okay, these intrafusal fibers send signals to the CNS showing how much they're stretched. Okay, and they measure stretch, and that stretch is controlled by the gamma motor neurons. Okay, so make sure you know the difference between alpha motor neurons and gamma motor neurons. Okay, so okay, so here the stretch reflex. Okay, so you take a weight. Okay, things are normal. You're holding still. And if you're holding still, then you're just sending the same signals to the brain over and over and over again. Okay, so nothing much is happening. When you add load, okay, that load causes for a split second this to stretch a little bit. Okay, when it stretches, okay, when the muscle stretches, there is increased signaling, okay, of the intrafusal fibers, okay, and the intrafusal fibers send signals to the spinal cord, and that causes the alpha motor neurons and the gamma motor neurons to fire, and so the stretch receptor contracts as well as the muscle contracts, and you go back to normal. That is the alpha receptor and gamma receptor co-activation. Okay, so alpha motor neuron fires and gamma motor neuron fires. So both the muscle and intrafusal fibers contract, and so you go back basically to normal. Okay, so the firing rate does not change, so the muscle goes back to normal, and that's how you adjust. Okay, that being said, again, if the load is too great, your Golgi tendon organs kick in and you drop the load. Okay, it stops your Golgi tendon organs can stop your alpha motor neurons from firing, and if it prevents it from firing, your muscle relaxes completely and you drop the load. Okay. Okay. The next thing I want to make sure you guys understand is these reflexes aren't as simple as you think it is. It isn't just as simple as um, when you hit the knee with a hammer, your leg kicks. Okay. For your quadriceps to kick, your hamstrings have to relax. Okay. So for stretch reflexes, you always have reciprocal inhibition and control around the joint. Okay, for muscle to contract, the other muscle has to relax at the same time for it to actually generate a response. If both of them contract, then nothing happens. Like, okay, so this is the patellar reflex. So the patellar reflex is actually a little bit more complicated. So, right, so I think at first pass we show you, oh, here, this innervates the quadriceps muscle, and quadriceps muscle kicks, contracts and kick, you kick out. But at the same time that has to happen is this has to inhibit the hamstring muscle. So the hamstring muscle has to relax the same moment the quadriceps contracts. And so both things have to happen together. Okay, that's why a lot of times when you're trying to do this, especially like if you're nervous and stuff like that in the lab, you hit the hammer, nothing happens. It's because you're consciously contracting your hamstrings or keeping them contracted. Okay. Okay, the even more complicated one is a cross extension reflex. Okay, so imagine this. Okay, you're walking along and you step on a nail with your right foot. Okay, your goal now is to get your right foot off the ground. But to get your right foot off the ground and off the nail, your left foot better plant and plant hard, right? Because you want to get your right foot off the ground. Okay, so not only do your quadriceps, okay, so to get your foot off the ground, your hamstrings have to flex, so you have to contract. This has to relax, and then the other side, you have to get the opposite. The extensors contract and the flexors relax. Okay, so the cross extensor reflex. Okay. All right. So go into more stuff. Okay. So the integration of muscle reflexes. Okay. So the voluntary movement. Okay. So here. Okay. So sensory input. Okay. Goes to the sensory cortex, and then which then goes to the prefrontal and motor association area. This is where the planning, like getting ready to execute. Okay, it goes to the thalamus and to the cerebellum for planning, timing, coordination, and then to before to the brainstem and up through the brainstem for muscle contraction. And all of this goes right back to the execution and then back to the feedback loop. Okay, so over and over. Okay. All right, so again, I'm gonna let I'll take most of this stuff, chapter 13, so there won't be very much on it. But you do have to know what the gamma motor neurons are, what the alpha motor neurons are, and Golgi tendon organs are, and what they do. Okay. And the monosynaptic reflex, monosynaptic, polysynaptic, the cross receptor reflex, and there's one more, the cross extensor reflex. Okay, so you're responsible for all of those things. That's it. Okay, short, sweet, to the point.